All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
This conference will now be recorded.
For our committee of the whole this evening, it is 6:15, so I'm going to call that meeting to order. I just want to check in online. Mr. Smith, you can hear me okay, right?
Yes, I can.
Good, and we can hear you great. So we do have one alder joining us remotely and then one that has another obligation this evening. So we only have one item for our committee of the whole, and we are going to aim to end at least by 6:55 so that people can get reset. And we do have an invocation prior to our council meeting, so just want to make sure we have enough time for everything. But with that, our only business item this evening is a presentation from Heartland Shores pertaining to the Allward Street development. So I'll turn it over to you, Mason.
Absolutely, thank you, and I'm glad that you all were willing and able to come here this evening for this committee of the whole. In your agenda packet for tonight was a memo that I prepared that kind of laid out some of the history of this parcel, which, as I mentioned, I've been working on for over a year, and it just really represents a unique opportunity for the city to take, 20 acres of land that the school district has owned since the 1990s and put that back on the tax roll, as well as fulfilling our identified need for residential housing in the community of Watertown. I don't know if he's here yet this evening. I know the superintendent had indicated he would be here at some point this evening if any questions come up regarding the school district's interest in this transaction. I've been working with Heartland Shores. That's a team that's here this evening for quite a while, and they'll be able to come up in just a minute and introduce themselves. I really feel like they've been trying to be accommodating throughout this whole process. They're trying to fill a need for multifamily housing in our community, and they've brought forth a product that is going to be good, high-quality, market-rate construction. And as you'll see when they give their presentation, they've been trying to address some of the concerns that have been raised by some of the neighbors and other members in the community. I also included in your agendas a letter from Deb Reinbold of Thrive Economic Development, and she really stressed how Thrive is supportive of this proposal. Right now, our current rental vacancy rate is somewhere around 2.2%, and as she cites, a healthy rental vacancy would be 5 to 10%. So we're well below where we should be. And I think this is just really an opportunity for the community to make a statement, to our employers. We've had employers state that they desperately need more housing for their workers. And I think we could make a statement by bringing this multifamily into the city that, hey, if you have an existing business you want to expand, or you want to bring a new business, maybe a new manufacturer here, we're going to have the housing for your employees. I know density as a concept has been talked about a lot on this proposal. I have examples I can cite, but I will leave that for later and we can talk about that. Again, I think this is a unique opportunity. I want to make sure that the city of Watertown remains a place that is easy for developers to work with. I know in the past, according to some of you, that wasn't always the case. I really don't want us to become like a Madison or a Brookfield where they get a reputation for being very difficult to develop and people threaten lawsuits and things like that. We don't want that here in Watertown. So I'm hopeful that we can have a good discussion here based on the facts and based on the needs of the community. Right now, I guess I would like to introduce Chris Slater, Gino Cataldo, and Corey Kreeser from Heartland Shores. If at least two of you want to come up and you can take the mics and introduce yourselves. Perfect.
Mason, am I supposed to be projecting something?
Yeah, I'm plugged in, but there's no...
Let me try now. You want to plug, maybe try...
Unplug, replug?
Yeah. You know what the deal is? You're the one who normally uses that.
It's this one, right?
Do you guys need him to pull that up to start?
I think
The presentation, or?
I think it was distributed. I think it would be helpful for maybe the people online. But there it is.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Thank you. So Mason can just advance as you guys need him to, but turn it over to you guys. Just make sure those mics, you have to, yeah, just a little closer to you. Just try to make sure you speak into them just so everyone in the room can catch it. So,
All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time tonight. My name's Corey Creaser. I'm going to walk you through our proposed multifamily development. As you can see on the slide that Mason has up, what we're proposing is 128 multifamily units, mostly 2 and 3 bedrooms, over 8 buildings. We're anticipating that this project would be done in 2 phases, 4 buildings each, 64 per phase. And then there's a couple other components of the site plan. There's a stormwater detention shown to the north of the proposed buildings, a dedicated bike running path and landscape corridor, which is about 2 acres to the east of the property. And then to the south, some vacant land that we anticipate to be some future residential use. At this point, we really don't have a great idea of what that could be. I think from a multifamily standpoint, we think that 128 is probably the most amount of units that would want to go here. So I think we're open to some feedback on what that could be, but certainly don't anticipate it to be multifamily. The total project right now is anticipated to cost $31 million over those 2 phases with the construction, land, and all the soft costs. And our real goal here is to provide some quality, mainstream workforce housing to meet the needs of the housing in the community. If you could move to the next slide, please. So this is a little more detailed site plan showing the 8 buildings. This is now rotated slightly, so north is to the right side of the page. And this, a couple things I want to illustrate here is we've got kind of a loop in terms of the egress and exiting on the site. Every one of these units would have an attached enclosed garage. Those garages are located off of that drive, so all of the traffic really is contained in the center of the property. And in terms of cars pulling in and out with headlights, that's all going to be between the buildings. We will have some additional visitor parking, but again, that will be, in the center of the property. Through some initial meetings with the city, we had discussed that there's some planning in this area for a path, and so we initially thought we'd put that bike path and dedicate some land on the east side of the property, which is the bottom of this page. Some additional feedback we received was in concern to the adjacent single-family housing to the east, and our response to that, I guess, is twofold. What's that?
it's someone that's attending remotely.
Okay.
I will mute them. Sorry about that.
So I guess our response, or our proposal would be twofold. One, we've extended the width of that from 50 feet to 75 feet. So it's a 75-foot corridor. There's now 2 acres of land included in that corridor. And then that actually puts the distance from the property line to the face of the building at 100 feet. And Mason, if you go to the next slide, we can elaborate on that a little more. So here is just a little blow up of how a conceptual plan of how that berm and path would go. And then a section at the north side of it and the south side of it. So along with the path, there'd be a berm that would have some landscaping to kind of shield the multifamily from the use to the east. We've kind of split that berm to allow for some visibility from the park and some access from the park, and then as it goes through the proposed development, that the berm would shift sides, be closer to the single-family houses to provide more screening, but then also be open to the multifamily side for public safety. And so if you look at the right side, you see the 100 feet from the building face to the property line, 75 feet from that berm to the property line. And just in comparison to a single-family home with typical zoning that Watertown allows, there is a 25-foot setback requirement. So if this were single-family versus multifamily, you could be, as 4 times as close to that adjacent lot or existing home as what we're proposing to build these in. So I think from this standpoint, adding that distance and adding that landscaping, kind of breaking this up, there should be adequate screening there. Mason, if you'll flip to the next slide. We have just a conceptual rendering of some similar products we built in other communities. You can see that there's a 2-story building, there's a hip style roof, so we built these and designed them in a manner that they try not to intrude, where they're kind of lower at the perimeter of the buildings and kind of ramp up in the middle only where they need to, and then they have some architectural character to make them appealing. If I move to the next slide, just have our floor plan that we've been working on, showing a kind of mix of 2 and 3 bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms kind of end cap the units. The top image you see is the second floor, and the bottom image is the first floor with all the attached garages. Again, those would be located kind of facing that interior access room. And this unit size right now range anywhere from the 1,000 to 1,100 for a 2-bedroom, and then the 2,500 to 1,300 range for a 3-bedroom. So they're large units. If you wouldn't mind flipping to the next few slides. So here we have a completed project recently that we did up in Mayville. You can see some of the different siding textures and colors, the trim around the decks, and the garage doors and all the doors. Just kind of trim that out with the finish. If I'm just keep flipping through these, I'll just kind of describe what you see. So inside, quality, durable finishes. These are built to last, not just to at the least expensive price point. There's some real thought put into a unit that is going to last. So you see nicer finishes, solid surface appliances. Each unit has a dishwasher, in-unit laundry. And you can see some upgraded fixtures and stuff to not only be appealing, but also compete with all the various options that people have in the market. But every unit has a garage and in-unit laundry as well. So. Just wanted to give you kind of a flavor for what we had in mind, not only from the planning aspect, but also kind of the fit and finish of the units.
No, on your last slide, you had some comments or some thoughts. Did you want me to go to that yet, or did you just want to open up to Q&A at this time?
Yeah, I think before we get there, if there's any questions about anything specific.
We want to be respectful of the time, so.
Yeah.
So, initial thoughts, comments, questions? I should have kind of started by level setting. So, what we're generally looking for, to recap, we all know how we got here, and the desire of the council was to bring back a conceptual rendering and design, and then essentially to say, yep, let's keep going down this road, or no, let's find a different road to go down. So we're not taking action. I think what Mason passed out on your desks is a list that we give to every developer that we work with when they get to this point, of all of the steps and meetings and approvals that are yet to happen. It's double-sided. So we're by no means, making an approval of anything. There's a lot of steps that would need to be followed yet, but that is the end goal that we're looking for here today, is some direction. So with that, yes.
So my one question is the landscape berm. What is the height of that berm?
We don't have that established at this time. They'll come out with the site plan and all of the landscaping that comes in, but we have to do the site work, numbers for the cut and fill with the buildings, the whole design of that thing, and we have to meet the landscaping code per code of you guys.
And
so
if there's
we'll continue to work with that.
If there's an idea of what
Yeah.
is a comfortable height, I think that's helpful for us too. I know. So when I'm just picturing like the project on North 4th Street, they put in a berm as well. I have actually no idea how tall the berm is, but we had a similar request during that project. So if you like 4th Street, that'll work for me. We can figure out how high that is after this.
I would say generally they're in like the 3 to 4 foot range.
Yeah.
You know.
Is the preference to go higher with that?
I would defer that question to the residents in the area. Because the second point I was going to bring up is that we did get a professional opinion on multifamily next to single-family homes. And I would just like to point out one thing in all of these professional opinions. From what I know from the residents, it's not about housing values. It's about having the zoning of a large multifamily complex directly abutting single-family. In this professional opinion that we received, every one of these multifamily examples that were given, there's a street between them and the single family. So that's the big concern of the homeowners, and I'm sensitive to that concern. So that's why the berm and some of the other landscaping things, I appreciate the increased setback. I think that and the berm are a step in the right direction, but again, until we actually see the site plan, I don't know how I feel at this point, so I'm tentative.
Yeah.
I'd just like to ask Alderman Blank, which professional opinion are you referring to on that one?
The email that we received today from Tracy Cross and Associates.
Okay.
Real Estate Market Analysis. The vineyards at Cambridge. The photo shows
I
right
can
here.
bring that up if needed. The mayor
Yeah.
wants me to.
No, I think we're fine. I mean,
Okay.
everyone
But
has
both
the,
of- Yeah, both of those, and the other one is in Lake Mills. Both of those show a street between the multifamily and the single family. And the multifamily that's already on Allward Street is on the other side of the street, so.
others. Yes, sir.
I had a similar question, but my question is, what do you call market rate for apartments today? It looks like you're spending about $250,000 a unit. That, if I did my math correctly.
Yeah.
So what's market rate?
We're proposing I think our average rent is around $1,890 per month. I think the median income here, based off of what Google told me, was about $67,000. So on a ratio perspective, we're about a third of that median income.
Yes,
I
Ms.
think-
Davis. Oh,
I think
I'm sorry.
the
Mr. Board.
The challenge I would have about the berms, it's not the height of the berms that matters. It really doesn't. What matters is the landscaping you decide to put on the berms. 2-story units, a 4-foot-high berm is useless. So the challenge will be the landscape plan, and history tells me that that will be something that will be challenged with enforcing before occupancy of the apartments. So I would like to get some assurance, if and when this goes forward, that we can put some stipulations into the plan. So that would be something I'd be looking for going forward. The other thing, Mason, if you could go back to the
Sure.
the overhead or the picture of that one. That's pretty stark, and I know it's garages for the residents. I don't know if there's any way you can soften that, but that seems awful stark to me. And again, looking at the site plan, I just want to make sure the garages are indeed all facing inward like that. I couldn't tell for sure from
They
the
are all
drawings.
facing inward,
Okay.
and they face each other, and so, that was done intentionally, just for traffic flow, and then also to kind of contain that traffic within, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I assume there'll be traffic on the other side of the buildings for visitors, or not?
Foot traffic.
Just foot traffic.
Just foot traffic?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do I get on the property?
Well, right now, that man sitting back there owns it. The superintendent, well, his school district.
No.
How do you drive on it?
Oh, I'm like, you can just walk on it, Mr. Board.
I've been
If
on
he
it.
says so.
If you pull up the overhead, there's 2 access roads that
Do you
go
want to
into
switch to
Villa.
the site plan,
From
Mason?
Allward.
It's a little bit hard to
From Allward.
discern. They're
They're,
on the left side. of
both
the-
access points are from Allward Street.
Correct.
That was my question. Okay. Okay.
I thought you wanted to like get a feel, walk it or something. I was like, you could ask Jared. I'm sure
Well,
he'd say yes.
I've walked it. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of muddy, but yeah.
Mr. Moldenhauer.
I appreciate all the work that's been done, but I'm not sold on that. I just cannot see that fitting in with that situation out there. That's all R1. And in my opinion, I'd like to leave it that way,
It's not R1 right now.
whatever it is.
Right now, it's zoned institutional.
It's
It's zoned
Zoned
residential.
I'm sorry, the, what's that?
residential zoning.
The future
Future.
land use is institutional. Correct?
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes, that's correct.
But I'm not sure that's a good fit there. I'm sorry. I just not sold on it.
Sure.
I think it's important to remember this was planned for a school. A school would have been much, much bigger. It would have generated hundreds of cars in and out every day. There likely would have been athletic fields generating noise and crowds and so forth. So I need to remind folks that this was never planned to be single family. Now, in that third phase, maybe there could be single family. It sounds like the developers are open to that. If the community feels that's a need, if that's something maybe the Common Council wants to see in the future, I think they're open to that.
Ms. Davis, I think I missed you before.
Going back to the cost of the apartments, I think you said an average of $1,800. As you've done your market analysis, how does that compare with other apartment complexes in that vicinity and in Watertown? Would it put you low, middle, high?
It'd be definitely on the higher end. That's because there hasn't been a lot of new apartments built in Watertown, and what's the last project, maybe about 20 years ago?
No.
We
There's
had-
a new apartment right down the street on
Or,
4th Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of more of the stuff outside of downtown.
Right.
I
So
would
that,
say,
go
In
ahead.
terms of new construction, it would put us in the middle. So it's not the cheapest unit you could build. There's not sleeved air conditioners and, baseboard heat. It's a furnace and air conditioner like you have in a house. There's a private entry. There's a attached private garage. So there's certain things that cost more to create the privacies and the comforts of a home. And it's not the higher end because it's not 3-story. There's not underground parking. There's
But-
not, amenities. So the rents and the costs will fall in the middle of those ranges.
But in terms of apartment complexes in Watertown, I believe it falls at the high end. So the new apartment complex just down the street, the newer, I should say, 4th Street, they have 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car attached garage, and they're just under $1,100 for that unit. So this is considerably higher than that. And I guess my concern is not that you won't be able to fill that. I think you would invest in something that you're likely not going to fill. My concern is that those apartment complexes may, in response, then change their pricing structure and raise costs so that we have an increase of cost. I know there's the whole supply-demand scenario there, but I'm concerned that because those costs are kind of high, even on Allward, right across the street from that complex, it's 2-bedroom, 1-bath, attached garage, it's, your own entrance, and they're under $1,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So I am concerned about the pricing.
Yeah, the pricing is market driven. We've built these in other communities. We've put these out to bid. We try to build them.
Can you go a little closer to the microphone? I'm sorry.
We try to build them for it cost effectively as possible. In the last 4 years, construction costs have risen 40%. So
Right.
our costs are in the $120 a square foot range. You really can't build anything cheaper than that unless you go to take away some of those conveniences and privacies we had suggested. A single family house, probably $200 a square foot to build. So,
Yeah.
we.
I don't question any of that. It's expensive. So that brings me to my next question is, are you able to fund and build and develop this solely on your private funds and loans that you can acquire? Or are you going to need assistance from the city?
We have requested a TIF and have been in discussions with the city about.
So currently with the purchase price and with the property that you want to build and with the equity and the funds that are available to you, it still requires assistance in order for you to build that. through the
Correct.
form of a TID. I do have one follow-up question. So I do think it is interesting. The reason I'm going to bring this up is not too long ago, I sat through a really, really excellent presentation with the Watertown Foundation and that development that's ongoing. And something that spoke to me through that is that they really talked about that in order to get housing built, it has to be a private-public collaboration. And I think in that situation, the private piece was going in knowing that they were giving of themselves and of their money to get that part going. So that made me think, this property is super interesting and the history behind it. I believe it was sold from the Mary Rose subdivision, sold it to the Watertown School District in 1997 for $5,600, I believe. That's what the property record said today. So that's about $280 per acre. For 27 years, it's been empty. And then I believe it's being sold now. I don't know the final cost. I'm not at liberty to, or I just don't know that, but I'm thinking over $35,000 or so per acre. Are we in between $700,000 and $750,000 in a sales price? So I don't begrudge that. I mean, I think that the Mary Rose Subdivision, Inc. Was asked to contribute to this future site of a new school, and they did that. They also gave 6 acres to the Watertown, or to the water tower that's there. So even if you go to the legal description for this property, it has in parentheses vacant future school site in the legal description. So the school district was able to acquire that for $5,600. And now, of course, they're selling it for much more, and I don't begrudge them for that. But I go back to that piece about having in order to get housing, which we all agree is necessary, in order to get more children in the school system, I think this does need to be a joint effort. And what's going to happen if we don't do it as a joint effort with school district and the developers and Watertown is that the city of Watertown is going to kick in to pay for this in the form of a TID for 20 years or more. And that's a burden to carry. And it's a tough situation, though. Absolutely, we need housing. But it's tough. This is a tough one. So I just share that with you tonight.
Yes.
Just another question. Being out that far, has anything been looked at as far as lift stations for the sewage and all that? Is what the cost might be? Because that's going to be pumped back.
We've provided, so I want to be careful. At this stage of development, we're not going to see the level of detail like that you'd see at Plan Commission or that we saw from the Health Foundation. They need to know that there's a reason to continue investing money. So I don't want to take the answer out of your hands. Have you looked at the movement of wastewater yet?
I mean, preliminarily we have not gone into great detail.
So that planning level just wouldn't be done at this point in the process yet. We give them some initial site maps where we know where utilities are.
I don't want to speak to fact here. I don't work for the wastewater or water utility, but in preliminary conversations, we've never been told about a lift station being needed. There is a water tower in the very nearby vicinity, so I'd be surprised if any.
For water.
Yeah,
Sure.
for water,
And
yes.
When we chatted with a prior landowner last week, he talked to us about a story about installing large pipes for the movement of wastewater.
Yes.
So I think that, I don't want to say that I don't want to not answer your question, but it's simply not one that level of engineering would be done quite yet.
Yeah, and I think out of respect for time, I know the clock is ticking here, and I want to be respectful of their time. They originally made an offer to the school district in the summer. The school board took a while, which was fine. They had to do their due diligence and internal discussions to accept the offer. They accepted the offer in late October of '23, and their closing was supposed to be at the end of April, and the school district fortunately gave them a 3-month extension, but they've been very patient. I think they've been trying to work through things with the city, and as this sheet that I distributed to the council members before the meeting shows, there's still a lot of steps we have to go through. We have to go through a rezoning, we have to change the plan amendment. There will be negotiations on TIF and a development agreement, and we can absolutely address those site plan requirements regarding landscaping and berms and so forth. We can work through all of that through the normal process. I think the council just has to hopefully give the green light here that this makes sense for the community.
Yes.
I'm gonna divide my comments kind of in two parts here. One is just kind of a piece of housekeeping. There was a letter sent to us by the president of Mary Rose Subdivision. I just kind of forwarded that to everybody. I'm not sure if everybody got that delivered. I was hearing a little bit before council. Not everybody received that letter, and not my views, but some of the things in here pertain to additional use on the park, pertain to density in the area, pertain to use of TID. So has an opinion on that. His words are going to express that better than mine. So second part of my comments, I do want to say I'm supportive in general of some higher density on this location. So thank you for bringing forward this proposal. Thank you for the school district. Thank you for the city for basically working through this to get it this far. The last time I think we talked about this as a body, we had talked about it again when we were talking about zoning versus future designations. And I think at the time I was the only one in support of changing the future designation to the multifamily in order that we could have the appropriate conversation and figure out what is best to put there for multifamily housing. And this certainly provides an answer to our proposal. In my view, this is a very good step toward it. The risk, I think, and potentially could be addressed as well, is that we don't have, the phase 3 fully plotted. I always get those two words backwards. But basically, we have a mystery a little bit in phase 3. And I do also appreciate the fact that taking some of that feedback from that discussion and adding some additional buffer to that zone was taken into account to arrive at this plan. I would, though, say that in terms of interpreting what I think I heard from a lot of the residents and even some of the ones who basically said, I don't mind multifamily there, but when they were talking about buffer, I think that maybe had more to do, kind of as Brad was suggesting, what is there in terms of a street? Is there room for more, is the phase 3 really along the west side and it's duplex housing or something? So I think that this council right now is kind of wrestling with a little bit of the unknown there. Again, I'm very appreciative that this is coming forward as a solid multifamily plan. This is something, again, that I would very much support as we're supporting other developments concurrently, or proposing to support other developments concurrently with TID funding. I think that that's an appropriate use, and like Alderperson Davis mentioned, that is something that we're considering. Other communities of our size are considering, certainly subsidizing these developments basically so that we can essentially buy more residents and start to jumpstart that growth piece again. So again, very supportive of this concept, supportive of multifamily in this area. Not necessarily sure that I'm ready to dive in and support this particular plan.
Yeah.
I think I would echo what Alder
Lampy.
Lampy,
Here,
yeah.
that's right.
What you just said, but I have a personal experience when I lived in Michigan. I thought I was educated, and a plan came forward directly behind my house, just like this. And we negotiated with the Planning Commission and worked with the Planning Commission and created a nice buffer, as been suggested tonight. And 15 years later, I never had a problem with the development, and they became good citizens. So I don't have that sense of concern about putting multifamily next to it. The architect in me looks at basically a square box and says, oh, but I understand why you did it the way you did it, and I respect the fact that you're trying to protect the residents from the traffic and those kinds of issues. I think going forward, I'd like to see your concept of what you'd like to do in phase 3 rather than trying to get us to tell you what to do, because as Ms. Davis said, I haven't done the market study, so I don't know what the market will allow you to do. But I think we should look at a complete plan, not just this one phase and what's coming next. But I have no strong objections to this. As a matter of fact, I probably will support it with some tweaks.
Others? Yes.
The reason I brought up the wastewater problem before, when I was on the council previously, we had a situation in that area. We had to upsize the wastewater pipe because it wasn't big enough. And at that time, we got a $600,000 grant from the state. Now, I don't know how far this would take us in the wrong direction, but I don't know, are we set up to handle that kind of a problem?
So any time a development comes forward and gets past really this initial point, the next step is sitting down with all of our department heads and talking those nuts and bolts. So you're on the right path. You're just a couple steps ahead of us. And then that starts to work through site plan and plan commission, while all these other steps kind of concurrently run as well. Mr. Wetzel or Mr. Bartz or Mr. Smith, I want to make sure I can keep you all included. You don't have to say anything, but just opening up the space. Or anyone else.
May I?
Ms. Davis.
I think the thing that I'm struggling with is the price, the cost. A property is worth what someone will pay for it. But in this case, this property only gets that price tag if the city pitches in. So is it worth that amount? If that's a thought I have, and I'm really pondering with. Mayor, you once, not too long ago, you said to me that personal property rights, and just like the homeowners have personal property rights, someone who purchases this piece of property has personal property rights. And I think for me it would be a little bit different if the developers were buying this outright with their money, they purchased it, and they're going to develop it with their money. And then it would be a little harder because they're building the property that they want, whether I think it's boxy or not, it is what it is. But that's not what's happening here. They're purchasing the property with assistance, and what we're getting is not necessarily what the residents are requesting. So that's just a little bit of what I'm struggling
Sure.
with too.
I want to touch on, I'm not going to call you out, realtor in the room, or realtor in the room, or superintendent. Can anyone speak to, or maybe you guys, I mean, where are we at on the price? Is the school district taking you to the house, or, please don't put that in the newspaper. Zach, thank you. I'll phrase it better if that's the case.
The price per acre of raw land that is access to site utilities, municipal utilities, is consistent with what we see in other communities of this size. And I would just clarify that, while we are seeking a TIF, we're seeking a pay-go TIF. So there's no upfront costs or outlays from the city other than just administration. It's an incentive for basically a tax refund based on all the monies we're going to spend. So it's not that the city's putting up the money to buy this. We're going to spend all the money, and once this goes into commission after, 2 years of planning and a year and a half of construction, when we pay the first tax bill, we'll get a portion of that back until we don't, basically.
Mr. Zelling, I saw you pop your hand up. Is that about right? I want to be mindful of time.
Just briefly, I was going to speak maybe in the next session.
Oh, sure.
Comments, but, yeah, I think just to speak to a couple quick things anecdotally, that Ms. Davis, in terms of the rent prices, I would actually say, as a realtor, I'm also a county supervisor, so in the capacity I'm speaking after your district four. I would say that, to the contrary, it's more likely to be that having higher rent, thanks, Mason. Having these higher rents available is a positive thing for the balance of the housing in Watertown. I say that as a realtor, as a citizen, as a county supervisor, and as a person that's on economic development boards, that no, I don't see that necessarily in any way making other rents increase. It only creates an opportunity for a type of housing that presently is not available to us here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a price point that would be important to fill, in my opinion, as a realtor, and one that would be easily filled. Also, really anecdotally, Mr. Blank, forgive me if it's Blanky, sorry.
It is Blanky.
Blanky, yeah, thought I knew I did it wrong. So I'll tell you that as a Realtor, I traveled to a number of places where there are actually multi-units that do back up directly to some pretty big ticket houses. In fact, I was just recently, I was over in Muskego, and 700, 800-ish price point homes, and not even quite this distance away was multi-unit, not unlike what we're talking about here, and fairly recent builds. So I guess I'll echo the sentiment that I personally haven't seen any gnashing of teeth when these things have been in place at all. It hasn't declined or hasn't depressed any of the value of the properties. Again, as long as, to respect to Mr. Moldenhauer's comments, absolutely, yeah, all these things need to be, all these Ts need to be, crossed and, along the way. But, yeah, in my opinion, they're right on track with a necessary component of housing that I think would be a great fit for that use.
Thank you. I'm going to take, I don't want to cut anyone off. I'm just looking around the room, checking the time. We're not voting on anything tonight, but for the sake of these three gentlemen and Mason at most.
And Brian and
Brian
Steven.
and me, yeah, but you get the point. Are we comfortable that we're going to continue to engage in conversation and start down a course? Do you want to have more conversation? I need guidance from you all on how you want to see us go from here. Yeah.
I'll cue it up. I mean, I'm very happy with the conversation. I think I've had some perspective as to where it started a while ago. It's gotten much better, and I definitely appreciate some of the accommodations and adjustments that have been made to the plan along the way. So I definitely want to keep this conversation rolling.
You don't need to go around the room, just generally looking for head shakes.
Follow the process.
Follow the-
I'm fine.
Others? Follow, stop? To put that in perspective, the next is talking through some plan amendments, some public hearing items, and an initial review at the Planning Commission.
I
Some of
think
the-
my sticking point is the TID. I'm not comfortable with that aspect of it. I think.
And I'm not going to get you comfortable in 2 minutes, but
No.
no development's going to happen in the
And I
community
think
without it.
that's part of the thing, is it's a what comes first, chicken or egg thing, and in order to agree to this, that you got to know the TID and.
Yep, you do. Well, we're not
So-
agreeing
Well,
to anything. We're
right.
just saying, is it worth everyone's time to keep going down this road? We just don't want to burn time.
I got you.
Likewise, the school district, I'm sure, they're waiting, you all are waiting, everyone's kind of waiting on this meeting to see if that's something that they want to continue to give extensions to so they can work their stuff out. So that's all we're doing at this point is we're basically needing to make sure it's not dead in the water. Yeah.
Personally, like I said, I don't think it fits out there, but that's my
Sure.
opinion.
Okay. Mr. Wetzel, are we dead on the water, or you want to see more?
As Alder Lampy, my goodness, can't say his name.
I've been here for 2 years.
And Alder Boards, one said, yeah, I'm okay right now with some tweaks. See what goes on, see
Okay.
what happens.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Bartz, Mr. Blanky? Can you hold on 1 second, please? I'm sorry. I'm not asking you to, are we continuing or are we halting?
The conversation can be continued, but obviously I have some reservations.
Understood.
Let's continue.
Mr. Smith, you want to chime in at all?
Well, I do appreciate the efforts that are being made. Some of the things that have been brought up in the past have been addressed. I am concerned about the border between the single-family area and what is the buffer area now. I had anticipated that we would be seeing more of a transitional approach from less to more dense development as we moved away from the single-family area. I don't think that it is sufficient as it exists now, just with the buffer area, the natural open space area, and then immediately into the denser multifamily housing. But I think that it certainly is worth continuing to work with this development concept and see if we can't also factor into this development the respect for the already existing single-family area and their concerns. We're moving in the right direction, but we're definitely not there yet.
Okay. I think, yeah, yes, sir.
I was just going to say, if there's a little bit of a consensus item here, I thought it was as it pertains to the Phase 3. Like, I think there's a lot more comfort with this council if we basically
Sure.
plat out the whole thing.
And I think that's something that can be discussed. I do think Phase 3 is not to like 2027-ish. Is that, like, it's years off. So it is a little hard to commit not knowing what the market will dictate. What I think might be possible, though, is to say things with certainty that it wouldn't be. I don't know how, just from other, I'm not just saying it for Heartland Shores, all the developers that we've worked with the exception of the Health Foundation, and they're obviously a little bit different considering their community nonprofit status and mindedness. They can give an idea of what those things will be, and we can draft development agreements holding them to certain boundaries, if you will. But to narrow developers in that tight on 3+ years out can be a little harder, just because the market may dictate, we as a council 3 years from now, or you all may want something different than what that agreement says, because that's what the market's asking for, and then we don't want to hold them to something that's 3 years old. But we can take that under advisement and think about things, that would be suitable. We could maybe show what that would look like, just to have some options to actually kick around. And then what I am going to ask Mason to do, because I think I'm hearing enough consensus to move forward, I do think Mason should send the list of properties we currently have. There are properties in this community that you all may not realize, because I know I didn't, are denser than this development is. Audubon, for example, more units per acre. The Horizon development at the foundation site, more units per acre. So I think it helps visualize that. I would never have expected that out of Audubon. But when you look at it now, under that context, I think it looks appropriate. So we'll have Mason send that list just to kind of help normalize what that density per acre is and what that sounds like. But our council meeting is late, so unless you have something super, super valuable.
If they have any real quick questions, or just that they have anything
Anything you
final.
guys want to
I
add
don't want to
real
leave
quick?
them kind of twisting in the wind or anything like that.
We twisted in the wind?
No.
I know we have to get moving, so obviously, thank you so much for having us here. We think there's just a tremendous thing happening in Watertown. And Alderman Davis, we hear you loud and clear on projects like this. We invest a ton of money of our own in these projects. Even to get to this point, we have obviously a lot of money invested because we believe in it. We believe in the site, and this type of housing for this site, from our perspective, fits really well. And I think what I'm hearing is we have to just make it fit a little better. And I think from our standpoint, we want to continue working on it. And if that's what we're hearing, I think that's the path we're going to go.
Yeah, agreed.
So with that, thank you, and let's just keep working.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you, everyone that came to the meeting. We don't normally start our council meetings late, so I apologize for that. I am, and we do have an invocation too, so I am going to leave this go-to meeting running, but I am going to give our alders like a 1 or 2 minute, chatty Cathy's, please hear me, like a 1 or 2 minute quick turnover. We've got some city team members that need to move around. So could I please have a motion to adjourn our committee of the whole? Motion by Mr. Barth, second by Mr. Board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll get restarted in just a minute or two here. I'm just gonna
This
stop.
conference is no longer being recorded. that you would please be with us as we consider the little and great decisions of Watertown. We ask, Lord, that your Spirit would give a sense of cooperation and an opportunity for these men and women to meet together and to serve the public good of Watertown. And in so doing, Lord, that they might draw glory to your name, and Lord, that they also might bring prosperity to Watertown. And that we would be a safe city, a city with health in community and physically, and Lord, a city that allows everyone to feel comfortable and welcome. But we also pray for the police and the fire workers and the EMTs. We ask, Lord, that you would please keep them safe, Lord, that you would allow them to do their work to protect others by endangering themselves. Finally, Lord, we pray all of these things in Jesus' name. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right.
This conference will now be recorded.
I'm going to go ahead at 7:09 and call our Tuesday, May 7th council meeting to order. Megan, will you please take the roll?
Davis?
Here?
Lampy? Ward?
Here.
Bartz?
Here.
Blanky?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Schmid? Wetzel? Moldenhauer?
Here.
Very good. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The first item on our agenda tonight is the minutes of the council meeting from April 16th. Anybody have comments or questions on those minutes?
Yes.
Mr. Bartz?
On page 5, typo should be seconded by Alderperson Davis, I believe.
Aha, it does say David.
Exhibit 9601.
Very good, thank you. Good catch. Anybody else on those? All right. Next on our agenda is comments and suggestions from citizens present. Megan, do you have any?
Mike Hoppenrath?
Mike, when you hop up, will you make sure the mic is on, please? Just press that little circle button. Should turn green.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Good to go. Okay, Mike Hoppenrath, 1302 Newcastle Court. Before I start, I just want to make clear that Jonathan and Mason and I are still friends. We just disagree on this. So I still am opposed to development. I appreciate the developer's presentation. It was very interesting. And I'd love to hear Mason's talk about density, because I show Audubon at 9.4 units per acre, the ones on Allward Street about 8.4, and the ones on 4th Street about 8.5. And nobody has a map that show where I can measure how many acres this parcel takes up for these particular buildings, but I show it's even more than Bolton Street, which is 11.5 units per acre. So I'm still opposed to this development. I do appreciate the buffer, but when you go home tonight, walk off 33 steps. That's 100 feet. That's where you're going to see a building that is 77% as long as a football field right in your backyard. So I'm still opposed to that. I'm opposed to using TIF for this. So with that, I do thank you all for your time. I know this is not going to be an easy decision because we need the housing, but I'm still opposed to it, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I'm going to make sure that we send you the list too, and then we'll have a chat about it. The math I did was just on the GIS, so we'll follow up. Anybody else? Awesome. Anyone that would like to comment remotely? All right, we do have another opportunity at the end of our meeting, but let's move then to reports. You all have the site plan review minutes of March 11th, police and fire from March 12th, public safety and welfare from April 3rd, plan commission from April 8th, tourism from April 11th, park rec and forestry from April 15th, senior center advisory board from April 16th, finance from April 22nd, plan commission from the 22nd, and RDA from April 24th. Anybody have comments or questions on those? Alrighty. Let's move to communications and recommendations. The first item is just an FYI for you all. This is the 2023 annual report. We call it Insight. Any questions or comments on that one? Yeah?
Did you bring the orange light?
I did not. I don't own it right now.
I'd love to see that in presence. One of the coolest things in the city report was basically the award that the city staff is basically giving to each other over time, called the Orange Light. Did I get that
Yeah.
right? Which it was basically looks like as it sounds. So I thought that was kind of a neat introduction. So thank you for adding that and letting us in on that a little bit.
It's a very official engineering light. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I appreciate the update on the water mains in this, replacing 6,215 feet of, and I love the terminology of vintage water main. I'm assuming that's cast iron. Because one of the biggest complaints I know people have are water main breaks, and this shows a proactive approach to fixing that problem.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, the next item then is just an update from TDS. Nothing really to discuss here. We just wanted to give you all an update since they provided one to us on their approach. Anybody on that one? And then next is the Q2 newsletter. I believe you just have the employee update page, and this is a result of just having an opportunity to show you all some of our new employees. Comments or questions on that? Awesome. All right. Next is some committee appointments for your consideration. Is there a motion on these?
I move to approve all of the committee appointments as presented.
Motion by Mr. Lampy, second by Ms. Davis. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I will abstain.
And one abstain. Next is miscellaneous business. You all have the payroll summary from April 3rd to April 16th. Comments or questions on that? All right, then let's move to ordinances. The first is ordinance 24-13. This is an ordinance to amend section 410-56A, smoking prohibited places in the city code. This is here from Mr. Lampy in Park, Rec, and Forestry on its first reading. Sir. Motion by Mr. Lampy, second by? Second by Mr. Moldenhauer. Ms. Davis.
I'd like to make just a quick motion to amend, if I may. In the proposed ordinance, there are two instances where the word park is used. One is under designated area, parentheses A, and it says within each public park. And then the other is down under prohibited place, where it says in letter B, within a city park. So if you were to ask what is a park, there's no definition in our code specifically for that one word park. But in our code, we do have a definition for parks and recreation areas. For that phrase does have a definition under the definition section. And the definition is those areas within the jurisdiction of the approving governing agency, which is defined as the Park, Rec, and Forestry Commission, and owned or leased by the city of Watertown, and then it goes on to say some other things. So my motion to amend would be that we just simply replace where it says park under designated area and under prohibited place with parks and recreation areas. I did ask Attorney Cheesebro for a comment on this, and did you want to share if you had any objections to that?
I don't have any objections to it. It does provide a definition for it. It does potentially expand what I would argue to a court the parks area was, and that would just be to the extent that it includes any right-of-ways or areas surrounding the specific lot of a park. But that would all fall within the definition of a park and recreational area, so it's...
Okay. So it's just a matter of consistency and to remove any ambiguity. I also did reach out to Christine and Carol Quest, and I didn't receive any objections from them. So that's my motion to amend,
Okay.
is just simply to replace that with parks and recreation areas.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lampy. Any questions on just that amendment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so we're at that amended version of this ordinance. Mr. Board?
So I have
Okay.
to ask the assistant chief over there a simple question. When was the last time you ticketed somebody in the park for their dog?
I would have to check with dispatch. They'd be able to check on that.
I'm going to guess not very often.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number.
So my concern with an ordinance like this is how does it get enforced? And I struggle with writing law that you can't enforce.
I think there was discussion on that. I can't, I was, yeah, right, at the meeting or no? I know I've had internal discussion about the same question.
So to provide the general context there was some discussion on enforcement. The discussion that occurred at Park and Rec, as you probably know, this is an ordinance that's returning to us for the second or third time. First time up from the Health Board. That was co-sponsored with Alderman Smith and myself. We basically took a look at it there, handed it back to Park and Rec and Health. Park and Rec next swing at it, basically for them to come back with a proposal of areas that would actually be no smoking zones. So the context, most of the context that the Park and Rec was looking at was basically like, do we have an actionable proposal from Park and Rec director and Health director agreeing on zones? And that's what they baked into the zones that were provided back to council for acceptance, amendment, anything else, and put it back in that.
But if I can, I have great respect for both of those ladies. Neither one of them are going to walk into a park and cite somebody for smoking. I think I would be much more agreeable to an ordinance that said you cannot smoke in the buildings on our parklands. I'm having a hard time telling somebody that's standing in a field that might happen to be in an area that's been designated no smoking that they should not be smoking with people 300 feet away. I even struggle with telling people not to smoke sitting in the bleachers. I was raised by a 2-pack-a-day guy. I'm not a fan of smoking, so please understand that, right? But I'm just having a hard time suggesting that we're writing an ordinance that we're going to enforce. And I have great difficulties with that. It'd be a lot easier for someone, a citizen, that was in a building that clearly had a sign that said no smoking in this building, for the citizen to say to the smoker, please go outside, than it would be to expect that one of our officers, who have much more important things to be doing, would show up in a park to write a ticket for somebody smoking. That's my dilemma, and I respect the desire to have it.
I'm going to hop to Ms. Davis when you're done. You
Yeah,
keep going.
I'm
Okay,
done.
Ms. Davis.
I think I have 3 quick things. Inside a building, does that already fall under no smoking in the state of, in Watertown, under the ordinance? No, I think it may already fall under the ordinance. Number 2, the Park and Rec.
Worse than what we need this for.
Well, because it's not about in the building, it's in the recreation areas, it's around children, it's the mess, that comes from it. And if you read the chapter on Park and Rec, there are a lot of rules for the Park and Rec that any one of those you could ask, well, how's that going to be enforced? Well, it actually explains how they go about dealing with if you break a rule. And so that was the second thing. I feel like I had a third thing, but it must not have been important.
Mr. Blanky.
So I will first echo Alderman Board's concerns on enforcement. Having to enforce smoking in the park is, to me, something that the police, like he said, they have better things to do. The next issue I have is, again, this is taking an inside-out approach. I believe I said on the council floor when this came up before us before, I said it to the Park Rec and Forestry Commission, I would be in full support of an ordinance that said no smoking around the playground areas and around children. Again, I have a problem with telling someone they can't smoke if they're fishing. There's no one else around them. You know, if there's someone not within 100 feet of them, you're telling them that what is, as far as I know, a legal activity if you're over the age of 21, do it in certain public areas. On the flip side of that, the same entity is going to have events that we sponsor that sell alcohol, where someone's going to go to a park, drink, and then more than likely get in a vehicle and drive home. And to me, that's far more dangerous than someone getting some secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke doesn't kill you instantly, a drunk driver does. So, and the third thing that I have is that the neighborhood parks have no smoking areas in them now, so you would have to go out onto the street, as I understand it. And the community parks, we've made the smoking areas by this ordinance the parking lots. So now every single person that goes to that park parks in the parking lot and has to walk through the cloud of smoke, much like what happened when the smoking ban went into effect in bars. Everyone walking into that bar had to walk past the smokers. We're doing the same thing here. You're putting the smokers in the parking lot, and now everyone that doesn't smoke is going to have to walk by them, instead of that person maybe being 100 feet away from them. So as this is written, as it's proposed, I cannot support this.
Mr. Lampe?
So the intent of the Park and Rec, and I do thank Alderman Blanky for coming to Park and Rec and actually providing some commentary to the full commission while you had a chance to talk about this at the commission level. The intent was basically to volley this one back to City Council and determine if the City Council is against banning smoking anywhere in the park, or if the City Council wants to draw a different set of lines, because essentially what we got back from our department heads is, how about the parking lots, which is more or less what we got in the original ordinance. But the original ordinance, I believe, had a little bit at the discretion of department heads without necessarily specifying an area. So the intent of the Park and Rec was basically to volley it back and let the council decide no ban. They like the ban with just the parking lots, or they want to draw their own circles around, let's say, playgrounds or whatnot. So you had mentioned at the commission level that, again, you'd be interested in a ban that's basically around playgrounds. Information was communicated to the commission volleyed it back. Nonetheless, back to here, I tend to agree that if we're going to start with something that's essentially an area around people can gain some consensus, have signs, and the expectation that basically there's some societal norms that you're not smoking on kids, on the park, playground, that's a fine place to start. I would rather have something that actually bans smoking at a particular place, have it defensible, have it basically something that we'd go out and talk to our constituents about and say, this makes sense. And really, again, the intent of Park and Rec was to volley that back to council so we get an idea of what the consensus here about what the defensible area is, because I don't think we're going to get something that we're going to agree on from our Park and Rec head and from our health department head, because what you see in the map proposal is their proposal.
I'm going to go over to Assistant Chief Olson.
Just want to follow up with Alder Board's comment. There's lots of statutes and ordinances that we're not actively going out there and searching for people, but it's a tool that's available to us, so that if we get a call for somebody that's smoking, I think it's a good idea for the health and safety of the people that are going to the parks. They have an ordinance in place that we can actually enforce. So comparing it to dogs in a park, yeah, it's not frequent, but at least when a citizen calls at Brantcourt, for example, I'd say is the biggest park that we have complaints at. It's nice to have an ordinance that's on the books. How it's actually crafted and used, obviously, that's why we're here today.
Thank you.
So you had mentioned that the idea was to send this to council for us to get the temperature of the council, but what I'm looking at in this ordinance is the smoking areas would be designated by the Park, Recreation, and Forestry Commission, not the City Council. That's in 1A. So basically, we would hand over that authority to the committee level, and the council would then have no say on it. So I have another issue with that as well. I would like for those to come in front of council.
May I clarify?
Yes.
You would like to approve the smoking areas in every park in Watertown?
Yes.
And my other comment was, this ordinance, pretty much as we have it, passed in La Crosse 4 years ago. And I think it's solid. I think, as you said, it's a tool.
Any other comments, questions?
If I may clarify, the reason that I have an issue with it being at the committee level is that the council passes this once, and then the committee, which only has one alder on it, then there's much less of our input into it. So what we approve at the outset can easily be changed with little oversight from the full council.
Yes, sir.
Well, I would go along with Alderman Blanky if you wanted to do something along the lines of no smoking, so many feet from a playground, something like that, where you're, you know, get it away from the kids. You don't want the kids to have the smoke. That I could go along with. I think that's a good suggestion.
Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Well, I don't know that I got the temperature of the whole council here, but I am sensitive to Alderman Blanky's concern about this getting knocked back to the commission level and getting changed. And so the amendment I'm going to propose, and I assume we're free and clear, we passed the other amendment.
Yep.
The amendment that I would propose would strike the section from section 1A1A that speaks to the designation by the Park, Recreation, and Forestry Commission. Just basically strike that line, designated by, and so it reads, an area within each public park where smoking is permitted. And the second piece of the amendment that I would propose would be in section B, strike everything after at least 20 feet from, replace that section with any playground up to the point where it says any structure or any heating or air condition intake or vent. And the reason that I'd want to leave that last clause in there is, again, a sensitivity for proximity to any building.
So the area must be
At least 20 feet from any playground.
at least 20 feet from. So we'd be striking and picnic areas, sports field, or improvements for recreational activity, food vendors, lines for recreational activities. Where is the word playground?
There isn't one. I would add it.
Oh, I was like, what?
So I would strike, yes, I would strike picnic areas, sports field, or improvements used for recreational activity, food vendors, line for recreational activities in the recreation area, and replace that whole phrase with
Playground?
playgrounds or,
Like stadiums and stands where people are sitting, children?
let me see if that's it. So I want to get my amendment out there first, so.
Okay, I want to recap it before I ask for a second.
Yes.
All right. These are the times I wish I could type on, like, write it on the fly. So under the bolded title designated area, everyone's with me.
Mhm.
It'd be an area designated, and then we'd strike by Park, Recreation, and Forestry Commission. Okay?
Right.
And then under B, the area must be at least 20 feet from, strike, any picnic area, sport field, or improvement used for recreational activity, food vendor, line for recreational activity in the recreational area. Then where are you putting in the word playground?
Then, yes, add playground and then and connect that to that last clause there about any structure.
Aha, so we're any structure or any heating and air conditioned intakes or vents.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Is
what-
everyone clear on that?
I'll support that.
All right, so it's a motion to amend by Lampy, a second by Mr. Board. Okay. I just want to, everyone nod with me. Are we on the same page? All right. Mr. Smith, are you, okay. I just want to
Yes.
make sure everyone's going together. Okay. Discussion on that. Yes, please, if you turn your mic, yep.
Just a for instance, mind, if you have Riverfest on Saturday night and a concert's going on, We can smoke if there's no kids around.
Stephen?
Special events have separate designated non-smoking areas, so Riverfest may be able to designate an area as non-smoking. So during that type of an event, I couldn't say for certain what that restriction would be, but that'd be a personal rule for Riverfest themselves. But this ordinance wouldn't prevent you from smoking with a child around during Riverfest with the modifications that were made.
Others? Yes.
So this is a lot closer to where I can support it. However, I would like to postpone this till our next council meeting to see the rewrites, because now it seems as though we have section 1 is conflicting with where we're saying we're going to allow smoking, but we're going to disallow smoking. And I think the language is getting a little bit jumbled, which happens when we make amendments on the floor.
Could I offer something? You can say no. If we vote on this amendment and we see the amended version, could we, if you choose to, could we then lay it on the table till the next meeting? Rather than postponing it while we're inside in a motion to amend? I'm frankly just not that Robert rules. I mean, I'm looking at my cheat sheet. Mr. Smith's remote. I mean, what's a girl to do?
So we're saying first, second reading.
I'm saying
We're not-
right
we're not
now, we have a
passing it tonight
motion and a
anyway.
second to amend. Could we vote on the amendment? And then if you still want to make a motion to lay on the table to the next meeting, then we're just laying on the table the amended version. Would that be
I
okay?
have not made a motion. so-
Okay, thank you. In that case, I'm going to not call on you again for a moment. I'm just kidding. So we would just be voting at this point on Mr. Lampy, seconded by Mr. Board's amendment to this ordinance. Are we all clear on that?
Yes.
All right, Megan, why don't you take the roll?
Lampy.
Aye.
Board. Bartz. Blanky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Wetzel. Moldenhauer. Davis. Motion passed 7-1.
Okay, we're at an amended version. Before I open it up for comment, we can do a couple of things. We can continue debating. We can take a motion to lay on the table. We can continue debating and vote with the reminder that there's always 2 readings. And the second one, we typically give you the updated language. So now that we're at the amended version, what other comments, questions, thoughts do y'all have? Go for it.
I would like to make a motion to table this until our next council meeting so we can see the full amended version, because I anticipate more amendments.
Is there a second to that? Second by Mr. Lampy. Not debatable. Let's take the roll.
Blanky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Wetzel. Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Davis.
No.
Lampy. Board. Bartz. Motion passed 7-1.
Stephen, can you please make sure that this amended version gets emailed to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Let's move then to ordinance 24-14. This is an ordinance to amend section 24-13 in our city code. This pertains to Airport Commission membership. This is here from Mr. Wetzel and the Airport Commission on its first reading. Motion by Mr. Wetzel, second by Mr. Board. Comments or questions from anyone on this one? Megan.
Wetzel. Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Lampy.
Aye.
Board. Bartz. Blanky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion passed 8-0.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 24-15. This is to review and recommend to amend section 428-8A definition, G subsection 3 open container, and G subsection 7 wristbands. This is here from Mr. Bart, and should this be here from you and Public Safety and Welfare?
It originated from them.
Okay. Well, we'll go with Mr. Bartz in the Benson Family Town Square. It came to your commission too, right? Okay. Is there a motion on this one? Motion by Mr. Blanky, second by Mr. Bartz. All right, comments or questions?
Just a question.
Yep.
So this is basically housekeeping to make this align with what we already brought through public safety and the cups, isn't it?
That's what this is. It
This
never
is-
made it to the council. And
Oh, okay.
it
Yeah.
never came to the council.
It is what you think it is. Yep. Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Do we have sufficient language anywhere that defines what we're looking for folks who are going to be issuing the wristbands?
I'm not sure what your question is. Do we have sufficient information about,
Do we?
what about the wristbands?
Do we specify who can do ID checks for wristbands?
I do not know that offhand. Do you know offhand?
No, there wouldn't be any specification for who does the ID checks, but the event organizer would be responsible if the wristbands or IDs aren't being properly checked.
Okay. So there's a liability chain, so.
Any other comments or questions on this one? Megan?
Blanky,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wetzel, Moldenhauer, Davis, Lampy,
Aye.
Board, Bartz.
Aye.
Motion passed 8-0.
Awesome. Let's go to resolutions. The first, Exhibit 9602. This is a resolution to approve the nomination of the Masonic Temple at 2 East Main Street as a locally designated landmark. This is here for me and Historic Preservation and Downtown Design. Motion by Mr. Board, second by Mr. Bartz. Any discussion on this one? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, next is Exhibit 9603. This is a resolution to adopt a right-of-way dedication for 672 Johnson Street. This is here for me and the Plan Commission.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mr. Blanky, seconded by Mr. Board. Discussion, comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Last is Exhibit 9604. This is a resolution to modify the purchasing policy. This is here from me and the Finance Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Davis, second by Mr. Lampy. Comments or questions? I thought I heard someone. Yes.
I think we should comment at least what it changes, since we did talk about it at Finance. So basically, this puts all contracts $50,000 or greater back to Common Council.
Anybody else on this one? Megan?
Davis,
Aye.
Lampy, Board, Bartz,
Aye.
Blanky,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wetzel, Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-1.
Very good. Next, we have our last opportunity for comments from citizens present. If anyone would like to comment, or anyone remotely. All right, with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Motion by Mr. Blanky, second by Mr. Bartz. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.